Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. Let's return to political reflections. Erdogan seizes on Saudi murder as chance to upend the Middle East. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is trying to turn a horrific murder in Istanbul into a catalyst for changing the balance of power in Saudi Arabia and regaining influence across the Middle East. Having remade the region's largest democracy in his own image, and look, I've got issues with Erdogan as well, but let's set those aside. He's a big jailer of journalists, we know that. Erdogan is taking aim at rival Saudi Arabia's leadership in international outrage over the death of insider-turned-critic Jamal Khashoggi at the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul. Erdogan has vowed to reveal what happened to Khashoggi in all its nakedness on Tuesday, just as the Saudis kick off a major investment forum in Riyadh. It's a big day today for Erdogan. Directly refuting the Saudi account of the slaying could dramatically raise the stakes for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And I wrote a piece on the 13th of August when he was coming under huge pressure. Pastor Brunson was still in prison. He was fighting the markets, and I called it cold turkey, and the link is there. But really, he's gone from Turkey to maestro, has Recep Erdogan, in the way he's played this geopolitical scenario. Turkey has literally run a clinic on leaking, so expect Erdogan's show tomorrow to be brutal. We are in a state of fear and panic, a Saudi official said. That's from Nihon Mama. Now, look at what he's done. After Qatar, where he sent his military to defend the emir, they're now starting a close military cooperation with Kuwait. If there was paranoia in the mind of the Crown Prince before, he's probably flipped it by now. Sybil Edmonds was talking about the big move in the Saudi CDS market, and I said in response to her, just maybe Erdogan has sharpened his skills, i.e. short-sold Saudi Arabia once he knew what was happening, because he's in charge of the facts, as it were, and flipped the control the yield curve, decide the future trade, which is the way that the UAE and Saudi Arabia were going to bash Qatar, has flipped it on its head and boomeranged it. Saudi's Davos in the Desert website was hacked, according to Ian Bremmer. Bruce Rydell writes that making al-Asiri the fall guy will send a very dangerous message to the Crown Prince's inner circle. You are not safe. No one is safe. That will increase the odds of a move against the Crown Prince. The pathetic Saudi explanation of the state-ordered murder of Jamal Khashoggi reflects the fragility of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's position. The cover-up is trying to put the blame for Khashoggi's brutal execution on the Saudi intelligence service, the General Intelligence Directorate. America's oldest partner in the Middle East is increasingly a danger to regional stability and its own stability. The Turks are said to have tapes that recorded the gruesome murder and will undercut Saudi claims of a fistfight that got out of control. A detailed examination of the Saudis who travelled to Istanbul on October the 2nd shows almost all our security figures. They are Royal Guards, Special Forces, Intelligence and Royal Saudi Air Force. Usually colonel level, the Royal Guards are the most represented. The Royal Guard regiment reports directly to the Crown Prince. It is inconceivable that Mohammed would not know about what they were doing. About half show up entering and exiting the United States, always when Mohammed or his father was also in the country. The connection to the royal court and the Crown Prince is clear. Then I noticed this tweet from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia Ministry of Foreign Affairs: offenders will be punished. And they were quoting Al-Jubair, an Al Jaber was talking about these folks acting in a rogue manner. Instead of putting rogue, they put rouge, and then withdrew it. But you can see from this, because fortunately I took an image of it. Asari, who was removed as Deputy Chief of the General Intelligence Directorate, was the spokesman for the Yemen war from the outset. That puts him very close to Mohammed. They meet constantly. At the beginning of the war, Mohammed was eager to be seen as the commander of what was then called Operation Decisive Storm. When it became clear it was not decisive and became the public face of the war has left 13 million Yemenis malnourished in what the United Nations says is the worst famine in a century. This is the tweet that they've withdrawn. Offenders will be punished. How the man behind Khashoggi murder ran the killing via Skype, it's now transpiring, and he said, "Bring me the head of the dog." The Turkish intelligence source says Qatar instructed. He was detained by the Saudi team inside the consulate building. Then Prince Mohammed contacted Khashoggi by phone and tried to convince him to return to Riyadh, the report said. Khashoggi refused Prince Mohammed's offer out of fear he would be arrested and killed if he returned. The assassination team then killed Khashoggi after the conversation ended. I wrote that Saudi Arabia is signaling loud and clear that its wannabe king is simply not tenable. I said he was already unconscionable. And why he's unconscionable, listen to this quote about the Yemen, and I think it's symptomatic of the man's thinking. We want to leave a huge impact on the consciousness of coming generations of Yemenis. We want their children and women, indeed their men, to shiver every time Saudi Arabia is mentioned. Why the outrage, MBS asked in English in a call to Kushner. He was really shocked that there was such a big reaction to it. He feels betrayed by the West. He said he would look elsewhere and will never forget how people turned against him before the evidence was produced. I wrote previously in November last year, this is an unprecedented moment in the history of the kingdom and the most perilous moment for the House of Saud that I can recall. I said, the then 30-year-old Crown Prince arrived on the scene and immediately launched an unwinnable war in Yemen. President Assad, with his Russian, Iranian and Lebanese allies, resisted the regime changes in Syria. IS, which was a Sunni and Saudi blade, has been eviscerated. Iraq, which was once firmly in the Saudi camp, is now aligned with Iran completely. Qatar is lost. See the Intercept article to which I was referring, control the yield curve, decide the future. And I was saying that the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi should have called me because I could have told him how to do it. But obviously Erdogan has learned how to do it. I was also saying, what is also clear is that Bibi Netanyahu, MBZ, Jared Kushner and a Trump carte blanche have all leveraged the existential paranoia. And what is really unconscionable is that he should ever become the custodian of the two holy mosques. It's just extraordinary. After dismembering Jamal Khashoggi, this sword dance during Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia now seems much more sinister. US and China, the great decoupling. This is a Nikkei Asian Review. For evidence of this megatrend, look no further than the new phrase that has become the talk of Washington, of a decoupling between the US and China. Put simply, the US has decided it should start to disentangle its economic relationship with China in key sectors in its own national interest and security. And that I was referencing on the 15th of October when I said the US Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Peter Navarro have operated with surgical precision and have introduced an anti-dragon clause. The United States sent 2 warships through the Taiwan Strait on Monday in the second such operation this year. Voyage risks further heightening tensions with China. The ship's transit through the Taiwan Strait demonstrates the US commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. And this is something I spoke about as well in my article, War is Coming, on the 15th of October. The Taliban claimed they shot down a US helicopter in Kawa district. This is from Ozcock. The reason why angry nationalisms are raging in the world is because almost anyone can construe themselves as in some manner oppressed, and such claims are inherently more difficult to satisfy than economic ones, says Francis Fukuyama. This caught my attention. Chinese hold this. Have a look at that tweet. Actually, I'm now really interested in this internal audience thing. What other countries does McKinsey keep a list of dissidents, just have it hanging around to have on the file? And this is McKinsey's statement in response to the New York Times article. And this follows up last year's big hit, where I was in South Africa. I wrote a piece in September, Reputational Risk and a Cautionary Tale from South Africa. Xi Jinping announces the opening of the Hong Kong Zhuhai-Macau Bridge at an opening ceremony in the city of Zhuhai. The Trump family position appears to be that ISIS was wiped out in the Middle East, but now exists in Honduras.